Welcome. I'm DW Hits here with Photo Art Press. I'm here with Crystal L. Kirkham, and today we're going to be talking about Crystal and her work and her writing. And Crystal, why don't you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about yourself?
Well, as you said, my name's Crystal. I go by my full name, Crystal L. Kirkham, for all my published work. I live in the middle of nowhere, Alberta, and by that I mean I live in a town of less than 200 people, which is, just a little on the tiny side, but we have a store. That's the important thing to note. I have several dogs. I breed and show standard poodles in my off time.
Make as much of that.
I work full-time in an office. I run my own small publishing company, Dark Blue Press. As an author, though, I love writing darker work with really strong characters. Very strong, flawed characters is my jam. I just love taking somebody who would be your traditionally very, very strong character and poking at those little flaws that make them human, whether or not they are actually a human character. And that's probably one of the big hallmarks of my writing is poking at flaws and writing really dark work.
Wonderful. So you have two stories with Fedora right now. The Badlands, which is in Remnants anthology, and for everyone watching out there, both links to both of the books that Crystal is involved in, both Remnants and Bounties, Beasts, and Badlands. Links for both of these are in the description, as well as Crystal's bio and links to her social media website and all that fun stuff. But start with, tell us about the Badlands and tell us about where the idea came from for that story.
Well, the Badlands is based on a very real place. All the locations in the story are very local to me. The Badlands is based in Dry Island, Buffalo Jump. And if anybody's familiar with Canadian geography, the Canadian Badlands takes up a good portion of southern Alberta, right up into the central area where I live, which you have these gorgeous canyons and you have hoodoos. I don't know if do you know what a hoodoo is?
I thought it was some kind of a magic thing.
No, it's a geological formation where you have a hard rock and sandstone underneath, and you end up with these little towers like this.
Because I think down in the southeast U.S., there's a religion called hoodoo, and it's kind of like an off. I'm sure I'm wrong about this, but I seem to my mind thinks it's something like an offshoot of voodoo, but it has like another type of thing wrapped up in it. If you're listening out there and you know what it really is that I'm imagining and probably getting wrong, go ahead and put it in the comments and tell me where I'm wrong. But go ahead with the geological aspect.
So you have these great big caverns carved out by river systems and by retreating glaciers from the Ice Age, and it makes for the most fascinating landscape. And there is one near me called Dry Island Buffalo Jump, which is, I believe, a provincial park here. And you can go hiking and day use in the area. And I love hiking there. And I thought, when I first saw the idea for the Remnants world, and I was sitting there going, well, how would I kill these beasts? Like, what would I do if it were me? And I thought, well, not spoiling anything, they're really hard to kill. Mm-hmm. So how would I do it? And then I thought, well, I'm not going to have access to a lot of technology if it's, in any sort of apocalyptic, post-apocalyptic era. So what's the most low-tech way to kill something that is hard to kill? And that's where the story started. And I thought of the buffalo jumps. The most well-known one locally is called Head Smashed in Buffalo Jump. And I'm not joking. That is the name of it. But Dry Island is closer to me, and it's a lot more scenically stunning than Head Smashed In. And I just thought, wouldn't that be perfect that if I could find a way to have these creatures, use this geological formation and have these creatures be able to be killed, not wanting to give anything away, using this formation then maybe, just maybe, I can make this work. And I thought of basing something locally where I could go and just sit in among the area, as I thought of the idea really helped. It's about a 3-hour drive. No, not even. It's an hour drive, hour and a half drive from where I live. So that's
Very
kind of where it
nice.
all came from.
Very nice. And as I mentioned, with a couple of other authors that have joined us, who are also involved in the Remnants anthology. Later on this year, we do plan on opening up another submission window for what will be the Remnants Volume 2. So I'd ask anyone out there who's interested in this world, take a look at the book that's already out there. If it's a world you're interested in, we're going to be putting up more content on the website to get you more involved in that world. And if you're interested, you'll be able to write something for it. But more on that later this year. So then we have Bounties, Beasts, and Badlands, which you also have a story in, Freedom's Bounty.
Yeah.
And so tell us a little bit about that and the inspiration behind that.
When you first approached me for writing in this one, and I was sitting, yeah, I love Weird West. I love the idea of combining the horrific and fantastical with real times that happened in the past. And that whole aesthetic is just something that I find really alluring. And I'm like, but I want to do it differently. I don't want to write, about the American Old West. That's not where I'm from. I'm Canadian. We had our own little, Old West sort of era as well. And I decided that I wanted to go back to my roots. I grew up in British Columbia, which is well known as a part of the Gold Rush Trail. And I spent a lot of my youth gold panning throughout the rivers and streams in the mountains there. Yes, actual legit gold panning in rivers, not at a resort, not as a part of a gimmick thing, although I've done that too. And I actually have gold flakes and garnets that I have gotten out of the rivers in BC from when I was a kid. And I thought, that is definitely a part of the Old West, the old ghost towns and old mining towns that I visited so much in my youth. I could use that as inspiration as a place to set this novel. So I actually based it not on a gold mine, but a silver mining town. I can't remember what I called the town in my story, but I believe the real town is a very similar name, was Sardin, BC. And it was nestled in this valley. It was a dead end. There's nowhere to go from there. And I thought, what better place to set a novel than a town in the middle of the BC mountainous wilderness? There is nowhere to go. There is one way in, one way out, unless you're going into what really is a trackless wilderness that I spent my youth in. I'm sure my parents were trying to lose me at some point, but it never worked. So you laugh, but literally, I've traveled all over Western Canada and the US in my youth. So I'm pretty sure they were trying to lose me somewhere. But we're better. And so that was the starting point. And then I thought about the connotations of silver as far as how it's played into people who believe in the power of stones and gems and all of that modern day and all the associations with that. And I thought, well, silver is considered a very powerful moon metal for those people who do that. And I'm like, I can use that as, sort of a bit of a MacGuffin and have it be a very critical part, the fact that this is a silver mining town. And that's probably giving a little bit away of the story, but most of the story I would say is in the interactions between the characters. And, once I had that setting, once I had that opening scene and having that thought of the pouring rain and this person who's just very West, but very out of place. And I went from there. That was it. The rest of it just happened.
Yeah. And in our main character, she is a badass. She goes in and she takes care of business, and that's all I'll say about that. But the story is a lot of fun, and I'd encourage people to check it out. Tell us, Crystal, what are you working on right now?
as with the story of my life, there's always multiple things going on. For writing, I am constantly working on upping my short story game and working at just getting a lot better and finding an easier time with short stories. So I've been working a lot on those, and I have one that's a dare that I'm working on. And I had a friend give me 3 random prompts based on numbers. So they didn't pick them. I gave them numbers. They picked, and they told me what the numbers coincided with. So it's going to be a science fantasy short story with both spaceships and magic and
Oh,
a
cool.
war. So that should be interesting if I get around to finish it. So that's something I'm actually in the process of working on right now. So fingers crossed that these props magically, as I put it together, I will stitch them together with rainbows and glitter.
Well, I love science fantasy. I think it's one of these things that it kind of gets a rough name sometimes, but I look at it, it's like peanut butter and chocolate. They're two things that probably shouldn't go well together, but you stick them together, you get some really dedicated tastes there.
You definitely do. I'm hoping it works out. And then later this year, I have another novel that's releasing. And so that's in the final stages of editing and smoothing out and proofreading and all of that. And that's called Rising Darkness, which is the second book in a series so that we'll probably talk about later because you'll probably ask me about other work. And outside of being, an author, actually, I have a lot more ongoing than that, but we'll be here forever if I talk about everything I'm working on. Those are the 2 main things I'm working on. But as I mentioned earlier, I have my own small publishing company, and I literally just this evening finished the formatting for the print and the ebook for a book that's coming out this June, which is the final one in the Black Sun series by David Dixon. And I'm really excited for it because he writes some absolutely wonderfully paced, humorous space opera with a lot of influence from his own military background. So a lot of swearing, which I love. It fits. I work in the oil field. I'm used to it. And that comes out this June. And I'm really excited because I love putting the final touches on formatting of books. It makes my heart soar when I do that.
Well, it is kind of nice too. You're putting together these pieces, and you go from something that you're looking at it, and it just looks like just words, and then all of a sudden it takes shape into something that you're like, wow, now this really looks like a book, and that's a fun thing to do.
It really is. I love that point when you're like, oh, it's so pretty.
Exactly. So tell me, what exciting things do you see in your future?
I have this bad habit. I'm not looking past tomorrow at this point because there's always so much going on in my life. I have a dog show coat this summer, so I'm doing a lot of traveling to show my dog and compete with her. So I see a lot of juggling in my future, and I wish there was a little bit less of it. But past that, I have a couple of novels in mind that I actually created a hit list of novels, if you will,
Mhm.
of this one, this one, this one, this one, this one. I have a couple of really exciting ones that I want to get back to and get finished. Especially one about Death's Assassin,
Mhm.
called, pardon the pun, Where the Dead Fern Goes.
Oh,
Um, so I have this bad habit. I love play on words for titles, and sometimes I can't help myself, and that is one I couldn't help myself because it actually fits the novel.
mhm.
Um,
No,
and
those are great. They stick in your mind. And those are good.
they do. So I have, yeah, so many novels planned. I have a list. I have a prioritized list now of novels to write. And I see myself writing something new in the Remnants anthology, I think, maybe continuing the story of the Badlands. I believe we left off. They're about to head to my nearest city of Red Deer to get some more supplies. So I would love to explore the world with the ghosts in it.
Mhm.
And I'd love to bring that aspect into my story for Remnants. So
Well, that sounds fantastic. I look forward to that. So tell us about other works that you have out there. I know you have novels out there. You have other works. Tell us about some of that.
Well, I have a self-published series, the Saints and Sinners novels, which is some of the first books I ever published. And I'm the first to admit that they probably could have used better editing, but they still seem to get really well reviewed despite that.
Mm.
Or at least the first one does. The second one is far better edited. Um, and that is Road to Redemption and Depths of Darkness, and they're both based upon Christian mythology and a lot of some of the research I've done back into that. Because even though you can't see my bookcases really behind me here, I have a whole shelf of stuff that's about half of nonfiction, and about half of it is different religious texts. So I quite love researching that stuff, and so I pulled it into that series along with a lot of other wonderful mythology and a nice urban fantasy that goes. How much darker than dark can you get? Because it goes
That's a
from
good
kind
question.
of dark to, I think black doesn't quite cover the darkness.
Mm.
Kind of dark. So it varies in there of exactly what the subgenres are, because I do like to play with it. Depths of Darkness, take a guess. That is probably the darkest one there.
Mm.
And the next one, which is still under works, is going to be Shards of Shadows. And the fourth book in that series, when I get around to it, is Forged in Flames.
Okay.
So it is actually a planned series. There are several books in it, and two of them are out currently. It is more of a back burner, so it takes longer for those books to be released, but they're all designed to be able to be read without needing to read any of the others to know what's going on.
Mm.
So
That's
they're
good.
all very good standalone books as well.
Mm.
So I have that, and I have a couple of novelettes as well that are self-published. I have Gateway, which is cyberpunk. It was actually a very fun smashing the genres because I love smashing genres, and it is a post-apocalyptic cyberpunk story with a few little other influences from other genres in there.
Nice.
Yeah, I quite love that. I have Alert, which is another novelette that is another Canadian based one. Is actually in the most northern community in the permanently inhabited community in the entire world, which
Mm.
is here in Canada, and it's Alert, which is in Nunavut. And it's north of the Arctic Circle, obviously. It's the only way in is by a plane, and that is by military plane. There's
Oh.
no other way in or out. You cannot go there without being a part of the Canadian Armed Forces or being a research person. So scientists are allowed in, but only through, of course, military transport. So
Oh, well, neat.
yeah, I thought it was a great location. I actually spent a couple hours talking to a guy in Toronto who had spent a few years up there with research as well.
Mm.
So I wanted to get a really good feel of what I was writing about, since I can't personally go there, dang it. So those are all my self-published. And then with Dark Brew Press, the one I was talking about, Rising Darkness, second book in the series, The Shadows of Fate, is a dark fantasy, paranormal romance, very LGBTQ positive, and I
Mm.
absolutely adore it. My friend, all my earlier readers are in love with the characters. So the first one is Falling Light, and the second one is Rising Darkness, and the third one that'll hopefully be out next year, fingers crossed, depending on how much I overwhelm myself with other work, was Penumbra.
Oh, fantastic.
Whew, okay, that was a lot.
And all of these, you have them all listed out on your website, and as well as links to check you out on Amazon, where we have links to all of them as well on your author page on Amazon. I'll remind everyone that there are links to Crystal's website, as well as her social media info is on the description within the video here. And so, Crystal, if authors or readers watching here want to get in touch with you, what's the best avenue for them to take? Is it your website or Twitter, or where do you think they should go?
Hit me up on Twitter. If you're going to send me a DM and we're not mutuals, don't start with hey. I pretty much just ignore it if all you say is hey
Mhm.
or hey, you're pretty. I'm just like, well,
Hello?
obviously you need a new prescription, so we're gonna ignore that. Self-deprecating humor also, totally me, not in my book so much. But yeah, hit me up on Twitter. I love a good conversation. I like to meet new people. I don't always follow back unless I've had a pretty good solid amount of good interactions with someone. I'm really bad about that. So don't be offended if I don't hit follow. I do try and follow people that I have great interactions with, though. I mean, I do follow you, D-Dub.
I'm one of the lucky ones.
You are. You are one of the lucky ones.
Well, thank you so much for joining me today, Crystal. I've enjoyed having this conversation,
Me
and
too.
we'll definitely have more to come in the future. And like we mentioned, check out those links in the description down below. Check out Crystal's website, as well as there's links to the Fedorar books, the Bounties, Beasts, and Badlands, as well as the Remnants. So go on and click those links and check those out. And we will talk with you soon.